in the last 2 weeks, I mean, I went and pulled the numbers because it's kind of crazy to think what the offense looked like against the Packers and then what it is structurally the last 2 weeks. And honestly, it brings me back to what Jalen said on Sunday after the game about trying to find identity. I know, Zach, there were other players in the locker room that's the same thing, right? Trying to find identity.
Zach doesn't like the identity.
Really dislike it.
I see. Like I feel very strongly about the identity thing.
I think it's okay.
Because to me, I look at this offense now. I'm not sure what they're good at right now and what they think they're good at right now. And so I look at it from a motion rate standpoint, right? We know last year they were last in the league, 31.6%. They come out week one, 56.6%. So 22nd in the league. It wasn't huge, but a big jump, a 25 percentage point jump in terms of what they did. The last 2 weeks, weeks 3 and weeks 4, they're down to 41%. They cut so much of that away. And I look at it, I'm like, why is it so much different than what we saw in week 1? The 2x2, 3x1 stuff that I harped on in preseason, that has gone back the other way.
Really?
It started back where, in week 1, they were 6th in the NFL in 2x2 and 17th in 3x1, which is, I wasn't expecting a huge flip, but all right, just get back towards the median. The last 2 weeks, they're first in 2x2 and they're 30th in 3x1. Shotgun rate is all the way up at the top again. So it's all of these things where I look at it and I say, what is it that they feel like they are really good at, and what can they lean on right now? And right now, I don't know. Obviously, you get AJ Brown back, you get DeVonta Smith back, but I don't know that when you lose those guys, is that enough to just say, all right, take our whole structural plan and throw that out the window? This is what we're going to be now.
If anything, you would think that when you're without your best players, you would lean more into the motion stuff, right? Because you need to find some way to free these players who are of lesser caliber open, right? Now, maybe you could say you don't trust these guys enough to execute that stuff. Maybe it's a Jalen preference thing, but those numbers tell the story of this offense going from Kellen Moore's offense to the old Nick Sirianni offense. And
I just look around the NFL right now and what we've seen just in 4 weeks. You see Green Bay with what they did without Jordan Love and Malik Willis and completely revamping what they were doing. But then you also look at what Sean McVay has done with the Rams, and you say you lose Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, and you insert Demarcus Robinson and Jordan Whittington, a 6th-round rookie, and Tutu Atwell, and you say, okay, we're going to keep doing what we're doing and still put up numbers and still find a way to beat the 49ers. You know what I mean? I think that you could still find ways to run your offense, do what you do well, or find ways to put those guys in position to succeed, to use the old Andy Reidism. I think there's finding ways to be able to create successful offense. It doesn't need to be as hard as what we saw on Sunday.
Yeah, the reason I push back on the identity conversation, I hear what you're saying. I view that more as the accessories than the identities, or than the identity. There's an expression I've heard often. I've heard Joe Biden use it, which is
politics talk. All right.
Which is don't tell me what you. I'm sorry. Don't tell me what you value. Show me your budget, and I'll tell you what you value. And I think what's that?
Vests.
Okay.
Let him go.
If you want to know what the Eagles' identity is, look at where they spend their resources. Their identity is. I don't mean to be simplistic about this, but their identity on offense is AJ Brown, DeVonta Smith, and this offensive line. And they are going to, and then you put Jalen Hurts in there too, right? Their identity is their stars. What I said after that Packers game is this is a star-centric team, and their stars performed that day. And you can mention Saquon Barkley from a, proportion perspective of how they're allocating those resources. But yeah, their identity is to get the ball to these high-priced, high-profile players. It's not an offense that's designed to be interchangeable. It's not an offense that's designed, the Buffalo Bills, for instance.
Yep.
They keep talking about how it's all these different parts, and it's like a different guy each week, right? That's not the way the Eagles are designed. The Eagles are designed to have AJ Brown, DeVonta Smith, Jalen Hurts, this offensive line, be the stars, and Saquon. And without AJ, it's not a coincidence to me that the 1 week they had AJ Brown, they scored 34 points. And it shouldn't be. I might be inflating it too much in terms of AJ's role, but he's their $30 million receiver. It's designed for AJ to be a star.
Yeah, I think you guys are talking past each other a little bit. I think we're getting into what is the definition of identity, but
that's a very deep conversation.
But if the offense,
who's talking politics now?
If the offense can't function without AJ Brown and DeVonta Smith, it's not an offense. It's just two players. And so what is Kellen Moore's offense?
It's to accentuate the stars. Yeah. I mean, look, that's the way I see it.
I think that there's got to be something when I think of identity. And I remember offline we had these conversations during the coaching search when they move on from Doug Peterson and they're hiring Nick Sirianni and all the different candidates. And to me, when you're looking at offensive minds and for defensive minds as well, in terms of what is it that you feel like this is what our offense is or this is what our defense is. And I get the whole idea of we want to be multiple and we want to be able to change week to week. But I still think you want to have like those core philosophies from a tactical standpoint, like a pure like X and O standpoint, and say like this is what we are, this is what we do. And I do want to say too, it's so easy, and I think that we kind of fall into it to say like, all right, this is Nick's offense or this is Kellen's offense. I think we do have to remember that all of the coaching staff, everybody that's in that room, has a job and a role on a week-to-week basis of putting the game plan together, putting the offense together, and so everybody's going to have their area that they're going to impact. We know that Jeff Stoutland is in charge of the run game. He's as the run game coordinator. But there's I don't know what the roles are here this year, but I know like in years past. Okay, well, this coach is responsible for third down. So all third down dropbacks, that's going to fall. We'll say this is going to be Aaron Moorhead. In years past, the Super Bowl year, right? So John DeFilippo is responsible for red zone. Frank Reich is responsible for third down. Jeff Stoutland's responsible for run game. Doug Peterson's responsible for first and second down drop back pass game, right? And so you start getting into these different areas, and someone's responsible for the opening script. Someone's responsible for the goal line short yardage. So everybody has their areas of expertise that they're putting together the game plan. They're in charge of watching the opponent in this specific situation and saying these are the plays that we have at our disposal that will be good in this week's game plan. And so, when we get into what is it that's Nick Sirianni, what's Kellen Moore, it is a group effort from that standpoint.
Well, I think that's a very good point, because even if it's not Sirianni and he is hands-off-ish on offense, the other people who are putting those recipes together are still from his offense, right? Kevin Patullo and Aaron Moorhead, who you mentioned. And that goes to the decisions they made this offseason to Frankenstein this offensive staff together. It's not all Kellen Moore's staff. He doesn't get to build the bones of the offense from the ground up. He brought one guy with him, but otherwise he's building off of this structure that was already here. And so to think that you could completely change the offense, the 95% thing that Jalen Hurts said in the offseason, the longer you get into this season, they only have the answers that they already had last year. They don't have this all of this new information and new ideas. It's still building off of that same offense that failed last year.
Yeah, I mean, down the stretch, certainly.
Yeah.
And when you look at what, to Zach's point, the identity of this team is in their stars, well, you have to find ways to put those stars in position to be stars. And they didn't do that enough last year. And so far, obviously, look, AJ's been hurt and DeVonta was hurt last week, but finding ways to be able to get the most out of certainly the franchise quarterback and make him, reach that level that that we've seen Jalen Hurts operate at peak level. You want to be able to get him to that point on a consistent basis.
Go ahead.
Well, just to circle back, Nick Sirianni was asked about identity yesterday, and his exact answer to that, if you want to know what Nick believes here, he says that identity is what you do well. Identity is what you do well, what you do consistent, and what you hang your hat on. That changes year in, year out. What our identity was in 21, 22, 23, all those years has little differences in who you are. Same thing now. You figure it out as you go through the year. And he mentioned the small sample size.
I agree with that. I agree with everything he said there. I think that's what look, having the early bye week, and we joked about it in the postgame show that we were going to hear all week that the bye week's coming at the right time for this team. I do think it's true, but they still have to make the most of it over the next 10 days.
We all silly like the mayor.